Welcome to the revolution in the airwaves. It's The Cure with Scotty and Sully, where we don't just talk about the medical industry, we transform it. This is The Cure with Scotty and Sully, where we don't just cover excellence, we create it.
Right? Hey, welcome to The Cure with Scotty and Sully. We got another Friday morning. Summer is in the air. The kids are graduating. The graduation parties are going on. You know, everything's changing around us. But it's not changing for you, because every Friday morning you tune into your two boys, Scotty and Sully, where we bring on some of the world's best guests. And the goal is always simple, is to give you more knowledge and skill that you ever had and put you out the other side of this with the interest of becoming a top performer and entertaining you in the process. And so today is going to be another one of those great days, because we've got the National Vice President of Sales from the Cardinal Health at Home. It's a division of Cardinal Health at Home Solutions. Her name is Maria Barditch. She's a National VP of Sales for Cardinal Health at Home, which is a market-leading home medical supply provider serving more than 4 million customers, which means she touches a lot of people. The organization touches a lot of people. They're focused on exceptional leadership. She's got a big team. But a topic we're really going to hit on today, which applies to all of us. It doesn't matter if you're in marketing, if you're in sales, if you're in leadership. And in fact, I just talked about this topic up in Montreal, Canada this week, and that's on the topic of personal branding. Now, all of us are part of bigger organizations, and we have marketing departments who brand the company, but I have found the most successful people not only carry that great company brand, but whether they walk into a facility or they're with a potential supplier or business partner, they have their own juice. They got their own energy. They got their own brand. And Maria is one of the best on this topic. And so, Maria, thanks a ton for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Super excited to be here. Thank you for having me. Happy to chat about this topic I'm really passionate about. And well, let's take it from here.
Sully, just one question before we get started. How many times did you rehearse that opening about mine and your show in the mirror before we started this morning?
Well, that's freestyle, Scotty. Scotty, that's all freestyle, baby. You know I'm a freestyle rapper, right?
Yeah, I'm sitting there like, well, what? Where did this just come from?
See, now I'm starting to feel like he threw in that rapper because he knows I'm from 305. So
there you go.
So I think he definitely practiced.
South Florida, baby.
Come on, Ice. Let's go. All right, Scotty, take it away.
Wait, 305. So, Maria, do you live in Miami?
I do.
Oh, nice. I thought you were in Dublin. That's why some of the rapid fire questions were around Dublin, but we can change those up.
No. Hit me with them. Don't worry about it. I can cover a lot of territory.
So let's jump right in and just talk personal brand and talk a little bit about how you've crafted yours over the years, and then what strategies you've put in place to help you maintain that. Yeah,
well, just to piggyback on the opening comments, I do think that I'd like to start with how it is for people to not think of brand for something that's just like a product or a big corporation and what their brand is, because we all have our brand. And so for me, the number one thing that I think about is you always want to be in the driver's seat of creating the brand, because you're either investing in it and you're going to drive it down the path you want it to go down, or it's being created for you. So there's no way there. It's whether you're in the driver's seat or not. So I'd probably start there and, just say, listen, in my career, there have been times where I have been in the driver's seat of creating my brand. And definitely there's been times where I have not, and I haven't been aware, and maybe it was earlier in my career and I didn't realize that that's actually what I was doing. And so I've had people along the way that have helped me redirect, right, reposition, and get back behind the wheel. So I probably just wanted to start with that. But I do have a story for you. So when I started with Cardinal, actually, it was my first sales job. I had been in management, in distribution and other roles, but not that, customer facing sales. And so that first time I got a territory, I was up against a competitor who had been in the territory literally, I think it was like over 20 years, just an expert. Everybody knew him. And I mean, I'd walk into, I spent a lot of time in pharmaceutical distribution. I should have probably started with that. So I'd go into the pharmacies, and literally, I think he was like the godfather of the children that owned the pharmacies and so on and so forth. I was like, how am I going to like penetrate here? How am I going to break into this territory? And, somebody who had, not a lot of knowledge of the industry. And so I thought to myself, well, why do people buy from you? Like we all know, it's either they like you or they trust you, you bring some value to them. And so I started like cutting and pasting literally. I didn't have a marketing team doing all this for me. And I'd go and I'd search topics, and I created something which I called the monthly dose. It was Maria's monthly dose. And I walked into the customer every month, and I was like, these are the things we're going to talk about. And, just you could expect that when I walk in, I'm going to hand you this paper. We're going to review some of the things that are important in the industry, and we move forward. And so when I look back, I didn't realize I wasn't purposefully trying to create a brand, right? It was just, I was trying to create a name for myself and something that, my interactions, the customers would expect from me. And so looking back, literally what I was doing was creating a brand, right? And so that was the beginning for me in my career of understanding that consistency was going to be really important, right? And so that's a story of how it started in creating a brand.
It's really good.
I love it. Repertoire Magazine started out very similarly with Brian Taylor and Chris Kelly. It was a faxed newsletter that went out once a week to their reps on what was on promo for that month. And it morphed into them getting out of being independent manufacturer reps to being in the publishing business and starting what's become a 30-year-long magazine. I love that. I think the other thing that it proves that we talk about on this show a lot is the importance of content. And you were delivering content to your customers that you wanted to talk to them about, but it was also content that you knew they would want to consume. And it helped to drive not only your brand, but your penetration into those accounts and build commitment out of them. I love that. It's really a cool story. I'm glad you started out with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And a couple of things.
Yeah.
Also.
And I do think that, go ahead.
Well, Maria, one word you used is consistency. You trained them that when you walk in the door, this is what we are going to do and what we're going to talk about. But it also says that you're prepared in walking in that call, right? But this consistency really matters. When she shows up, that's what we're getting. So they want you coming back. I think that's a really good part of that as well.
And it's funny because when you say the word consistency, people often will think like, don't change, right? You're going to be consistent. You're going to be the same, right? And people can't get caught in that trap, right? Because, people don't like change. But what I'm saying is you need to be consistent in what people can expect, but you evolve because you have to also be innovative, right? As an organization, as an individual, what is it that your customers need and want? And you only figure that out by asking good questions. And so it's really a plethora of things. There's not a silver bullet of like, how do you create your brand, but surely being consistent and knowing like, hey, how am I hardwired? What am I really passionate about? And what am I good at? If you lean into that, you break out of the bubble, right? There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of competition. There's a lot of people doing what you're doing, what I'm doing, right? So it's like, how do you do it just a little bit better? How do you engage people a little bit more so they want to do it and work with you and have a relationship with you that's lasting and has loyalty and grows together so that it's mutually beneficial, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I just got back from Montreal yesterday and I did a great company called Trudel Medical. I do a lot of respiratory and other products. And we talked about personal branding. And I asked the audience, there's 200 people in the audience. I said, who's got some really cool stories of how they've personally branded themselves? And this woman off to my left, a little table, and she raises her hand, and she didn't really want to stand down. I go up with the microphone. I said, well, tell me your brand. She said, well, I make apple pies. I said, tell me more about the apple pies. Well,
you sound like Trump.
Yeah. I make apple pies, believe me, believe me. And she says, and I'll find so when I stay at a place, I'll find like a Airbnb or a Vrbo that has a microwave, and I always heat it up before I walk in. And I said, does it work? She said, everybody now looks forward to my pies. And I'm like, and at the coffee break, I asked her manager, how's she doing? Does she sell a lot of stuff? Says she kills it. All right. But again, that's her brand. Simple ideas like that.
I love it. And it also speaks to, again, don't wait to start creating your brand. Wherever you sit, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Like I once heard like, not all readers are leaders, but all leaders are readers. It's kind of the same thing here, right? Everybody who has a brand is not going to be a leader, but surely everybody that's a leader already has a brand. And that brand is the one that's going to help you get into that role that you're looking to sit in, right? And so just don't wait. Whatever seat you're in, it's an important seat to start creating a brand, to be intentional about it.
How do you get your reps to align with that, to kind of look at what the customer needs are and then align so that they meet those customer needs? And then do you have a story or two around that where you've seen some success?
So I don't know exactly about a particular story, because honestly, there are stories every single day on how we align for with the customer's needs and how we have a brand, right? So Maria's brand is going to be different than Joe's brand or Scotty's brand or, Susie's brand, right? But what does intertwine and something that I'm passionate about is actually creating culture, right? And so you got 48,000 employees in Cardinal Health, 30 countries, you've got different divisions and, all in the spirit of driving healthcare forward, right? And so advancing healthcare and improving people's lives, right? But one person doesn't do that. Surely you've got four. So how do you get all of these people to align with a bigger mission and with the way that we show up to our customers, to our colleagues, right? But within your territory, within my team of 50 some odd, right, employees, like the way that I show up matters, because I am creating something that's going to trickle into our customer interactions, to our interactions with supporting departments. And so they'll emulate that, right? And so we go back to the same thing. If you have a diluted focus, you're going to have diluted results. So Maria is Maria, and I show up pretty similar almost every day, right? And so that consistency of how I behave, how integrity is the first thing that we care about, right? How we drive results, professionally relentless. People know that I care about those that I work with and for. And all of those little things become consistent in a culture where people start to say, well, I can do that. I can behave that way. And then that turns into customer relationships and interactions, and it just starts to show up. So, not a particular story, but that is the story. That is really the story. You create a culture and you help people create a brand, and then you just show up the best way possible in the market and in your interactions.
So, Maria, how do you find a balance in let's think of healthcare sales, whether it's pharma or distribution or manufacturing? That young salesperson comes in and their perception is we're a very professional organization and this brand has been created, and healthcare is a serious business. And they heard terms at their national sales meetings, such as increasing efficiencies and leaning into corporate cliches, right? I mean, you got the people up there, and they're doing the corporate speak. So we're programming them that's how we're supposed to act. And I find that they often suppress their authenticity and the warmth, and it's almost like they're afraid that I'm supposed to be a corporate robot. But I find that the folks who build great friendships and connections feel this freedom to have a personal brand and be themselves. What advice would you give if I sat down and, Maria, I want to be a big part of your team going forward. I'm all in, but I tend to be more fun, and I want to try new things with my clients, but I don't want to screw up the brand. How do I find that middle ground?
That is actually a great question. I'm almost stumped as you're saying it. But the truth is that we are creating a culture where people could bring the best version of themselves to work. And what does that mean? Yes, we expect people to be respectful, to be professional, but to be themselves, right? And so it's this dance of, listen, I'm a Hispanic female, Cuban and Italian. You'll see it come up, right? You'll see it. But I've got to, tame that character a little bit, right? And so you have to learn, number one is, who is your audience? That would probably be my number one. Who is your audience? And when is it time to be 305? When is it time to let a little bit of that Hispanic flair come out? And when is it time to be a little bit more serious? Because the situation warrants it, to be maybe a little bit more thoughtful, to tone it down. It's just not appropriate. So really the number one advice I have is know your audience. Yeah. It's really difficult to succeed when you're playing out a character, like for a long time. It's really exhausting, right? So find that place and that environment where you could be in character and successful. And that's the secret sauce right there.
Yeah.
Go the other direction there on that, Maria. Like, talk a little bit about where you faced, some challenges, maybe whether it's in your sales career or in your leadership career, and how you overcame that and some lessons that you learned through that.
So I think actually the latest challenge for me was a self-imposed challenge, because I've been with Cardinal Health for 19 years. And so 15 years plus I spent in pharmaceutical distribution. And just 3.5 years ago, I transitioned to this at-home solution segment. And, I had been 15 years down a path in a lane where I felt very comfortable, where I had established a brand, where I had established success. I had a great understanding of our customers and their needs. And I had a decision to make, right? That was the challenge. And I shocked myself for a moment, but I did, take the challenge on and try something new. And so, what I would say to people is there's so much growth being outside of your comfort zone, right? 100%. It's like comfort is where dreams go to die. The true statement. But you have to embrace it, right? And it's not for everybody. And I do think that there's a lot of upside in taking those challenges and moving, within roles and industries and learning something new. It's just so valuable. And so that has been something that for me has been a big aha moment. And it's not just for myself, even like when my children, right, and my friends and colleagues see me do it, it's kind of like says, well, she did it, I could do it, Yeah. And so I take that pretty seriously. I do things like that just because I'm thinking about my surroundings, people that are watching as well.
Hey, so Maria, I want to get back to something you said earlier that was understanding your audience and then matching the character to what you've identified the audience being, right? You said, so sometimes the 305 comes out. Now, my assumption is if you've got a meeting with a high-level Cuban executive female in Jupiter, Florida, who's all high energy, my sense is you can go to high energy. But my sense also is you can be in a boardroom with someone who's more introverted, maybe doesn't talk much, and you have to play that role and you have to act it out, right? And I think that's a really important part for all salespeople. It's getting outside of yourself and awareness of other people. And I think a lot of salespeople and leaders don't think that way early on in a communication, right? They're so focused on their messaging or the questions they're going to ask. And they don't just look at the body language. They don't look at the eyes. They don't look at the smile. Are they smiling or aren't they smiling? And they just too much are being them. I have to be myself. No, you don't have to be yourself. You got to be a morphed version of yourself. Right. And so I really appreciate that. And I think it's important. One technology I want to make the audience aware of. So when this came out in my seminar this week, because we were talking about different tech tools that can help you better understand your audience before you walk in the door. And this blew me away. So the CEO of one of their companies, he raised his hand as we're talking about LinkedIn. And I said, you can do a lot of homework on LinkedIn and look in the about section and get a pretty good idea of what motivates your people. So you can craft your message a little bit up front by doing a little prep homework. And he brought up this tool called Crystal Software. It's a Chrome extension. And he pulled up my LinkedIn profile and it it somehow went out and found my disc profile, and it's the AI reads everything it can about. It diagnoses my LinkedIn profile, and it tells you the do's and the don'ts of how to act when selling to Brian Sullivan. Wow. And it absolutely killed it. And it had the little disc profile. It said that Brian is this. How you plan for a meeting with Brian, use anecdotes and stories. Don't get over analytical. Keep the message short and to the point. And I was reading this and I'm going, yeah. Like
that's frightening and fascinating all at the same time.
Exactly.
I couldn't believe it. Right. So you don't have to guess anymore of what character you're going to be when you walk in the door. Right. So be open to AI tech tools to help you become that better character. To me, that's a fun part of what this technology is giving to us. It's helping us. I don't know. To me, the acting part of our job is fun as leaders and salespeople. It's how do we put this show on with the intention of helping people, right? But you got to be a really good character, right? So I thought that was cool.
That's awesome. I actually took notes.
Took notes. Called Chris.
And that's in Chrome, Sully.
Yeah, it's a Chrome extension. Yeah, so and it'll just pull right up. So if I put Scotty Adams, it's going to say talk really slow. He has trouble comprehending.
Right. He's not a strong speller.
We'll tell you he has another meeting in 10 minutes. Be aware of that. So get it all done in 4.
That's hilarious.
Maria, how do you do work-life balance with your employees? How do you ensure that they do that on a regular basis to kind of keep them right where you need them in that sweet spot of being able to do what Sully just talked about?
So for me, there's probably 2 things that I say consistently is be where your feet are at, right? So that's this 50-50, like 50 at home, 50 at work, or, trying to figure out percentages. It's like, where am I standing? Who needs my attention? That's who's getting it, right? So be where your feet are at. And I would say bookends, right? So for me, I like to do a morning walk. And so that's one of my bookends. That's how I start my day. I'm able to just self-reflect. And the other bookend is really important. That's, it doesn't matter what it is. Some people like go to yoga, go to the gym, go for the walk in the afternoon, read a book. It doesn't matter. But if you have consistent bookends, okay, this is where I'm starting and this is where I'm going to finish. And, I think that the other thing to be careful of, which I frequently talk to the team about, is just like, hey, we're always talking about, showing up as the best version of yourself. But guess what? After hours, the folks that you interact with, they need this best version of yourself as well, right? Yeah. So just be in tune with that when you need time off, when you need our team is great as covering each other. We will not respond if you're on vacation. You're in this chat, we are not going to respond because you need to disconnect.
I love that. I think it's so critical to have downtime.
100%.
Just because we go, and we're on our phones constantly and we're on our laptops constantly. And it's just nice we had a guy on here, Sully, I don't know, probably 6 or 7 episodes ago. And on Sundays, he made a decision. He puts his phone in the drawer and he doesn't touch his cell phone all day on Sunday. And he's like, at first it was hard. And I've tried it actually to a couple hours on Sunday just to put it away and don't look at it and just no phone for about 3 hours on Sunday. And he said, and it was really hard for people who want to get a hold of him, but now everybody knows he's not looking at his phone on Sunday. So you might as well just wait till Monday. And I love what you just said about be where your feet are. That's probably the coolest line of the podcast to this point for me.
Oh, wow.
That was great. I love that. So you got a question for her?
Yeah, I do. I want to go to the role of learning and development because I know that's important to you. Mm-hmm. You're obviously still growing, right? You spent a lot of time with Cardinal. And I think it's really cool that you jumped off into this new venture, right? You had your brand, which made you comfortable, like you knew who you were, and you knew it worked. So you didn't have to challenge yourself a ton. You knew you were still going to be successful, right? And an analogy, in fact, I just did a video of it. Each week I do these little videos. And the analogy I used, which is very similar to this, is, I have 2 dogs. And we have an electric dog fence in our front yard, right? You put the wire down and you put a collar on them and they go out and they get shocked. And the funny thing about this is they get shocked so often early on that you could take the collar off and they'll never go near that line, even though they're not going to get shocked. They're programmed to stay right where they are because they like to be comfortable. They don't like the pain. And of course, the analogy I used with salespeople is we come into those habits. Yours might have been the 15 or 19 years, right? There's this barrier of comfort. You stay there. So you don't try new things. New things approach you and you say, it'd be a hassle or it caused some pain. This always worked, right? So success becomes this barrier that prevents you from getting better. And I think that's what's really cool is you said, I'm going to try this at-home thing. This is a whole new gig, man, right? I mean, why'd you do that? Because you knew you were going to face some pain. You knew you had to reinvent yourself. You didn't have to do this. You had a good life. Why'd you do that?
Well, I think that it also depends on the stage in life where you are, family life, or, when you're ready for, taking on new challenges. So I think timing was there. The appetite to do some, kind of like that eagerness to like learn something new and challenge myself, that was there. And then, honestly, I made a couple of phone calls and folks over and at home, some of the leaders there, one person said to me, there isn't a more important package that's delivered by Cardinal than the one that's delivered with at home. And I was like, wow, that's pretty bold because I thought it was pharmaceuticals. And so it intrigued me. And I was like, I need to learn more about this business, right? And it's a growing business. And, it was a great team. I heard a lot of good things about it. And so I was just really intrigued to try something new. And I was open to doing it. And I was open to failing, right? So that's there as well. And figuring it out along the way. And so I transitioned over. I was a manager over in pharmaceutical distribution, and I transitioned over into the role of director of sales for the HME team. And as of late, I have a new expanded role as vice president of sales, right? And so I think that if you would have asked me that, 5 years ago, would I have known that this was going to be the path? No. But I have been open to seeing where the path leads me and taking opportunities when they come, and I've always been surrounded just by great mentors and friends, families, and colleagues that I could bounce ideas off of, and I could say, hey, is this a good fit for me? Will I bring value here? Is this what they need? And the answer is yes, and then I'm willing to do that, and I think that just not holding yourself back from the possibilities, and knowing that you're going to land on your feet somehow, some way, maybe in a different direction. Like you just have to get comfortable with that,
Tay, tell us about Cardinal at Home. Who's the customer? Who are you selling to? What's the big value? Right? A little commercial, because I'm curious.
That's great. So yeah. So when you think about Cardinal Health at Home, think about medical supplies, disposable medical supplies that are being delivered to the patient's home. And so you think about DME, POS, where the supplies portion of that equation. And so we are like virtual warehouse of sorts, right, for our providers, the HME providers. And so on their behalf, we're an extension of their business, really. We are a one-stop shop because we want to be able to service our customers in all the different ways and capacities that they need for their patients. And so it could be, urology, ostomy, diabetes, CGM, respiratory, CPAP, wound care. And so we're a one-stop shop, over 40,000 different SKUs that would be delivered to the patients who are chronically ill or might need a supply in perpetuity. And, delivering the right product in a timely manner, in a way that provides dignity, right, to the patient, and discreetness is really important. And literally, I think that one of the coolest things, we've got 11 distribution centers, actually one just opening up in Greenville, South Carolina. Have you actually ever been there? I've heard it's like a great place.
It's a really cool town. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was sitting with a customer at MedTrade, and this gentleman had lived in like 5 different states. I don't even know how many cities. And he like said, if I had to go pick, if the company allowed me to go pick the place I wanted to live for the rest of my life, he said Greenville, South Carolina. And I was like, really? Well, that's ironic. I was like, we're opening a distribution center there. And I was like, now I'm really excited to go do the tour. So yeah, but so our patients, they receive the product within 1 or 2 days anywhere in the U.S. And so that's a really strong value prop, right? It's patient preferred and it's cost effective. And so that's what we do.
What I love about our industry is to listen to you give that, 1-minute commercial or whatever. You're passionate about how important it is to the patient, their dignity, their privacy. All of those things. I think it's such a cool aspect to being able to be in this industry. I've been in it for almost 30 years, and I'm so thankful to be a part of it and to know that we change people's lives and we save people's lives. And during the pandemic, the role that distribution and manufacturers played to ensure products got where they needed to be, I think is so cool. I want to go back to the question before, Maria, where you talked a little bit about mentors. I did a panel at PWH last week, which is Professional Women in Healthcare. And the one thing, it's the 3rd year they've had me there. The one thing I always hear about at PWH is mentorship and how important it is. What advice as a mentor yourself would you give to a young professional kind of wanting to move into leadership?
People ask me that question often. Like, what do I have to do to get that other job? Yeah. And my first response is, you've got to be great at the one you're in. Okay. Mm-hmm. So just knock it out of the park in whatever current responsibility you have that you love or don't love, like be great at that. Right. So we start there. I think in the mentoring relationship, it's also important, for the mentee to know, hey, I own this, right? Same way that you own your career trajectory. Like, don't allow it to be in that state where it's like, what is it called? No man's land, right? Like you want to, again, own it. You want to own your career, your interactions. For me, a watch out early on in my career was, I was very focused on the work that I was producing and on hitting numbers and being successful that way, and didn't really spend a lot of time in the networking aspects because, believe it or not, I'm not a chit-chatting person. Like, I don't do chit-chat. People know that about me. So I'm a little out of character right now. But it is important. That networking part is important because there's people that within the organization that don't know Maria's work, right? And so how do you connect with people so that you interact in ways that your name comes up in a room and they recognize it? And so networking is important. Just really doing a standout job in whatever role you're in, and, just creating kind of like a village of sorts, right? Of people that support you, that speak about you, that believe in you, that give you candid feedback. If you do not get good feedback, I mean, that's really difficult. I think for females, sometimes even more difficult to get feedback because there's a sensitivity of like, is it going to hurt her feelings, or how are they going to take this? And really when you ask for feedback, if you just get kind of like, hey, you're doing great. I always tell people, say, I appreciate that. But if I had to do one thing differently, right? What would you tell me to do? Just give me one thing to work on. And if you work on one thing, you go softening the edges, and 1% at a time, just getting better. Just driving that feedback is also probably going to be crucial.
Yeah. So think of what you just said there. Ask for help, right? So be willing to ask for help, but knowing that some folks might not give you the truth. So you think of, what does that sound like? It sounds like calling on a customer, right? How many times have we asked a customer a question who also doesn't want to give you the truth? And so the pros of communication, find a way to frame the question in a way that makes the other person feel comfortable to share that truth. Stay with me on this, right? So it's,
I'm there. I'm with you. I'm with you.
treat it like a sales call, right? If your boss isn't giving, your manager, your leader isn't giving you, but there's something here. It's a sales objection in the customer world. It's the same thing with your manager. So you have to frame the question in a way that it makes it difficult for them to not share. And that's what you just did. So can you give me one example? If there's one thing that I can do.
What am I doing that you want me to continue to do?
Yeah.
Right? How about that?
Exactly.
And what should I stop doing? And what should I consider doing that I'm not doing at all? How about those 3 questions? That's it.
That's it. That's it. And so think of this. So, and Maria, you face it, Scotty, you face it, and I face it with salespeople. If there's one habit that I really try to focus on with them is ask that second and third level question, frame it in a more open way so that makes it difficult for them to not give you the truth. Also, they have to sense that you're indifferent in what the response will be. You will not be emotionally affected by the truth. Mm-hmm. If they don't feel comfortable in that, then you're never going to get it, right? So this posture of slight indifference we talk a lot about, right? Maria, I'm hoping to achieve this, but I might not be the right person for that next regional manager role. I don't know. And this is where I'd love your help, Maria. So if I frame it that way to you, you're going to say, okay, I'm not going to break Sully's heart. He's really wanting this. And I'm going to give an example of it. Right. So don't be afraid to go a little deeper on that.
Love that.
So really good example there.
Hey, Maria, before we jump into the rapid fire questions, I do want to just get your kind of insight on some trends and developments you see shaping the future of sales, and particularly in the at-home sector. Kind of what do you see coming down the pike?
But I really do think that we go back to basics of relationships, communication, those things, those never fail. It is a complex industry that we're in, right? And it takes a multitude of thoughts and strategies to be successful. And there is not a silver bullet, right? There is absolutely not a silver bullet. So we have to figure it out together collectively. And I feel that in sales, he or she who best communicates wins. And if going back to these questions that we're saying, like third level, just unpack it a little bit more, the better we get at that, and the more transparent we become at what I'm able to do and provide and what your needs are, and we can match that up, I think that those are going to be the successful relationships. We have to continue to evolve and try new things. We can't stay stagnant. And, the trend is, patients, caregivers, at home service is going to continue to grow. It is a demand. It is a need, right? And the health systems, they need us to succeed at this, right? So it is a mutually beneficial situation that we've got to figure out. And so I absolutely think that's where the trend's at.
Yeah.
What a cool spot to be in the healthcare sector and this new growing, and I don't want to say we're at the forefront of it, but we're definitely on the front line of how big this is going to get at home healthcare for sure. It's not going anywhere but up. So what time is it, buddy?
Yeah.
It's rapid fire time for the
It's rapid fire time, Scotty. You want me to get it? All right. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, today's rapid fire guest is Maria Barditch, National VP of Sales at Cardinal Health. In home, are you ready, Maria?
I'm ready.
All right. Hey, listen, each organization, you got sales, you got marketing. Who's better at making plans? The planning.
Oh, I'm going to have to go with my folks in sales. If we're going to hit plan, it's going to be sales. It may not look as good. We might not get over the finish line as pretty for sure, but I'm going to have to go with sales.
I don't know about that. I think it might look great. Anybody who designed the daily dose or the monthly dose, that's pretty good marketing right there, in my opinion, Maria. I'm going to jump to a different question here. I'm not going in order, and I'm changing it from OSU to the Canes. They're not really a football team anymore, but Alabama or the Canes national championship this year.
Oh boy. So I don't have a dog in that fight actually, but I'm going to say Roll Tide.
That's my girl right there. I love it.
You walked it right in. That was a leading question. Right? Yeah, leading question. All right. Based on what I've learned about you today, two wonderful things that came out of your mouth. As you said, I am part Cuban and I am part Italian. Take me into the Barditch kitchen right now, and you have to pick one lane. Are you picking a Cuban meal to make for those wonderful children of yours? Are you going a pot of sauce?
Oh my gosh, you're not going to believe this, but it's not going to be either one of those. I'm going to spark up the green egg outside and we're going to grill.
We may have just became best friends.
God.
Oh my
Alabama,
gosh.
Green egg.
There you go.
She's a baseball mom. That was spoken like a baseball mom right there.
All right, you've had a long Saturday of baseball tournament. Sunday, you just want to go have a nice brunch. What are you going with? Prosecco, champagne, screwdriver? What's brunch?
I'm a spicy Bloody Mary kind of girl. All the fixins, all the extras.
Yeah, this is like something about Mary, right? She's got the
something about Maria.
Do you golf too, Maria? Are you a golfer?
I'm sorry?
Are you a golfer?
I'm not. So, my husband took me to the range, and I think he did this purposefully. He didn't give me gloves. And so I walked out of there with blisters and I never did it again. I'm like, oh, honey, you didn't like it? Oh, that's too bad. It's like, I don't know. I think there's more to that story. I'm going to try again.
That's like when you get asked to clean the house, you do a horrible job and they never asked you to do it again.
Exactly.
All right. Well, listen, Maria, this has been great. We really appreciate it. We want more people to be aware of what your Cardinal is doing. Listen, we have a lot of fun in this program, but we've also had the VP of Cigna, right, where we're talking about taking costs out of healthcare and what's in the mind of insurance. And so we have a responsibility to do our part in healthcare, but we also have a responsibility to have fun and build great relationships in the process. So thank you for bringing to the industry both parts, right? I mean, you're a blast. No doubt you're a great leader. And, all the three of us, we're trying to grow, right? We're just trying to get better and enjoy the ride. So we can't thank you enough for joining us.
Well, I appreciate it. And I probably would end, if it's okay, with a final
Please.
thought here, a little story.
Absolutely.
I was at a distribution center and I saw this water bottle and on it said, if you touch the product, you touch the patient. And I thought, how clever, great marketing. We're in distribution, touch the product, pick, pack, ship. It totally made sense. Mm-hmm. And then later on that day, I thought about it and I was like, but don't we all touch the product? Whether you're sitting in customer service, in analytics, in IT, in sales, we're in healthcare. We are touching the product. And in that way, we touch the patient. And so what we do is important and how we show up is important. And so go out there and build a brand and be in the driver's seat. That's what I'd have to say.
Amen.
Amen. Great closing and great podcast, Maria. I'm so glad we got to have you on the show. Thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful weekend and we'd love to have you back at some point.
Thank you. Great.
Amen.
Have a good day.
All right. Maria Barditch. Hey, check out Cardinal at home. You're going to see him a lot out there. And make sure you go out and have a great weekend. You've been listening to The Cure with Scotty and Sully. See you next Friday.